Hey, this is Mac, one half of the Inside the Principal's Office team. I want you to join me and my co-host Charles Williams this Saturday when we explore this question: what do great leaders do differently when considering evaluating teachers? We're going to talk about it. It's going to be a very provocative conversation, and you need to be a part of it. Join us Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on all of School Rubric's social media platforms. I look to see you there on Saturday morning.
Hey, it's Charles Williams from Inside the Principal's Office. Now, if you've watched any of our shows, no doubt you've heard my co-host, Michael McWilliams, talk about our role as educational leaders, right? He talks about the fact that we are lead learners, that we are the teacher of teachers. And that is absolutely true, which means that we must constantly provide our teachers with feedback so that they can be successful in their classrooms with all of our students. The only problem is, and maybe this is just me, but our teacher evaluation systems haven't always gone so well, right? I remember getting those check marks right at the end of the year and saying, great, you did a great job, I'll see you again next year, with no real feedback. Or on the other end, they're extremely punitive. You've popped in once or twice and said, these are all the things that are wrong. Here's a plan on how to make them better. Well, if you were with us last week, right, we talk about strengths. So maybe it's time that great leaders do things a little differently. So join me and my co-host, Michael McWilliams, as we chat with a few of our colleagues on how we approach teacher evaluation systems. Who knows? Maybe you'll learn a little something. Maybe you'll take something back to your building. If nothing else, you'll be engaged in a great conversation. We want to hear from you. So please make sure that you join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time across all of School Rubric's social media accounts. I can't wait to see you there.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it happens to be while you're watching this. But welcome to another episode of Inside the Principal's Office. I am so excited to have you here. I love sharing space with you on Saturday mornings, or again, whenever you happen to be watching this. But again, this is a safe space that we are trying to curate for school leaders around the world to connect, to learn, and to grow together. My name is Charles Williams. I am one half of this show. I'm a principal here in Chicago. I am the host of the Counter Narrative podcast, the founder of CW Consulting, and co-author of our brand new book, Inside the Principal's Office, that I got to write with Dr. Rob Thornell and Michael McWilliams. Wait a minute. He was just here. He may have gone to get. There he is.
You lost me. But Wallace found me. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Oh, I thought you were running.
So are we going to start with the jokes this early, Charles?
Of course, Mac. Of course. We got to be in those good moods. I love seeing you here and our guests.
I love your sweater, and I am so glad to be your neighbor right next to you.
Good morning, Mac. How are you?
Be my neighbor.
That was a good one.
Was that a good one? Thank you. That was a good one.
I was going to do my sandal shoe flop, but then you'll see my pajama pants because, we only do top-ups here. So good morning, Dr. Nelson. Good morning, Dr. Lyon. And, of course, Mac. Mac, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Shout out to my father-in-law. I am in Midland, Texas, because my father-in-law turned 90 years young yesterday, and we celebrated last night with a big banquet. Today there's a barbecue. Sunday there's a church service. So Reverend W.C. Keenan, he's had a street renamed for him in the city. And so I'm just here enjoying a great family weekend with him. But this community is so important to me that most definitely we got up, we are taking advantage of the breakfast at the hotel, and we get an opportunity to learn from each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael McWilliams. I am a career principal in my 20th year as an elementary school principal. I am the founder of The Learning Leader. Go to thelearningleader.live. Follow all of us on our Instagram handles there. I'm just excited about being here. I'm excited about learning with our guest, and for those of you who are on Twitter, on Facebook, and whatever platform you're on, we want you to chime in today. Drop it in the chat. Give us your ideas, because this is a safe place where we all learn together. I want our partners in learning today, our thought partners, to introduce themselves. Dr. Nelson, you've been here before, so why don't we start with you, and then we'll give it to Dr. Lyon.
Great morning, everyone. I am LaQuanta Nelson. I'm in my 17th year as an educator, and it looks like I'm loving this principal thing so much. I might just follow me the track, Mac. You know, I just love being at the building. So I am currently the principal of Magnolia Middle School here in Southern Mississippi. I can see it. Gulf Coast.
Very good. We're glad to have you this morning. Dr. Lyon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I'm going to start to say y'all. I'm from New York, though.
Texas in the house. Come on, y'all.
Y'all. I am Dr. Heather Lyon. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Technology in Lewiston-Porter. We are so far west and north in New York that I am close to Canada, about 10, 15 minutes away from Canada, but about 6 hours away from New York City. But I've been in education. This is my 22nd year, and I really love the work that we do, even when things are difficult. That is part of the challenge, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are so excited to have both of you joining us today as we're talking about a very important topic. But before we jump in, Mac, please make sure that you tell your father-in-law I said a happy birthday.
I sure will do that. And my sister-in-law is probably watching in the house with him now. She watches every Saturday. So I'm sure she will relay the message.
Absolutely. And speaking of, if you are watching, you know, we want you to participate. I saw John pop in this morning. I see Mr. McCurdy. Good morning. Thank you for those apple donuts, sir. So definitely stop by, say hello. And of course, during the conversation, please make sure that you are chiming in. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your responses to the questions. Even though there are just 4 of us in this space, as we said earlier, this space is much larger than just us. So please join in on the conversation. So of course, today we're talking about teacher evaluations. And this has been an interesting journey for me just as a leader, right? I've only been a principal now for about 7, 8 years. You know, and of course, as I started this journey, I was doing evaluation systems by the book, the way they said, this is how you evaluate. But it never quite sat right with me, right? I never understood why we did those things that way. But then we said, hey, when it comes to evaluating your students and giving feedback to your students, these are the procedures we should use. And I said, well, why aren't we doing that for our teachers? So that is what we're talking about, how great leaders do things a little differently. And so, I mean, since we're all here, I guess we're great leaders.
Darn tootin'.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mac, I'm just curious, before we jump in, how do you feel about evaluation systems, and what has been your experience? Because I know me, I've been torn, and I've kind of created my own. So I'm curious how you approach it.
I believe this. I believe that you cannot adequately assign value to teachers by going to their room and watching a lesson for 45 minutes and completing a rubric and then giving them a score for the year based on, you know, you talked about the way that you were evaluated. I did that same thing. You're looking for EQs. You want everything checked and that exceeds expectation. And I believe that evaluation, I believe that that whole process must be a coach. And this is my biggest belief about evaluation feedback. We must create a system where teachers become self-managers of their growth, the same way that we want students to be self-managers of their learning. Students learn more when teachers learn more. So I believe that we have to create the infrastructure that emulates that which we do for kids. I don't like the checklist, and we have a system in Texas that has improved from previous models. But I think when you just say teacher evaluation, I think it brings anxiety and angst and emotions that are counterproductive to what we are trying to accomplish by doing what we're talking about today. Is basically designed to give feedback to teachers.
That is what I cannot wait for this conversation. I don't know about, Dr. Lyon, Dr. Nelson, about what you think, but I cannot wait for this conversation. I know we're going to dive into these a little bit, but before we jump into question one, I'm just curious, what are your initial thoughts? What are your general thoughts around teacher evaluation systems?
I think for me, it's much like Mac just said. We've got to shift from a place where we're looking at evaluations as a test, if you will, right? It's the end game, versus looking at it as formative assessments, like just the same way with teaching and learning. How do I constantly check the gauge? How do I constantly adjust what I'm giving to teachers so that they're constantly adjusting how effective they are in their classrooms? And so much like Mac has just said, the state of Mississippi has changed what its evaluation tool looks like, to the point that it's now called the growth rubric, right? Even the language is changing. So I think that we've all bought into this. We can't just go in and assign teachers, 1, 2, or 3, or 4, because it is truly counterproductive to us moving to where we need to be in the field of education. Nobody's running to be teachers or principals or anything in education anymore, right? So how do we shift to a place where we are truly growing the people that have committed their lives to the work, and we're supporting them in a way that they know, listen, we've got your back. Not we're trying to get you back out of here, right?
Come on.
Nice. Dr. Lyon, what about you?
If you're using the tool as a gotcha, don't be surprised when people feel like that's just a game of tag and they need to run away.
Yeah.
And so we need to get really clear about what the purpose that we're doing this. Like, this evaluation is not the gotcha. It is the help ya. It is the reflect ya. It is the, gonna help students. And so everybody needs to see it in that same light, because even if teachers don't, then the imagined boogeyman of the administrator coming into the room is scary. And so we need to make it something that is a part of the culture on a regular basis, and not something that we do as an event.
Excellent. That is so great. Not an event. It is not an event. And you said it's part of the culture. And we talk about climate and culture in our schools often, and we usually focus on climate, and climate is how you feel. And that's up and down, up and down. If you're in Texas, you know something about climate, because we get about 4 seasons in about 2 days. So climate is up and down, but culture is what we do to ensure that all kids learn and learn at high levels. So that is exactly what we have to do. We have to embed something different when it comes to evaluation in our culture. We're going to jump into question one. I am so excited about this conversation today. You know the format of Inside the Principal's Office. We have 2 questions that are offered up by people across the country, across the globe. We have a very rich dialogue, very robust conversation about those. And again, we want to invite those of you who are on social media. We want you just to jump in, and we will be discussing questions and looking at your comments as well. So let's jump right into question numero uno.
Hi, I'm Amber Bowers. I'm an assistant principal at Commonwealth Charter Academy. What informal systems do you use to give feedback to teachers on their progress towards their individual goals? I look forward to hearing your answers.
Okay, Dr. Nelson, talk to us about that. How do you give feedback to teachers on their progress toward their individual goals?
I think we begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is that every individual person in the building is growing and glowing just the same way that our scholars are, right? Yeah. So we start with this this idea of that, we're preaching growth mindset to students, but we can't preach that if we aren't walking that talk for them. So, right. So it's all about, again, for the adults, beginning with the growth mindset. So, and as my counterpart, Dr. Heather, just said a few minutes ago, evaluation, we should not look at them as an event, right? It's an ongoing process to us getting better. And something else that I can say this, I'm with you guys when we say, starting off at the beginning of my career as a principal versus now, you learn some things over the years and you realize that we've got to shift our focus and shift our language when we're speaking with teachers as it relates to evaluations. It's not coming in and saying you're great or you suck at this, right? It's about, this is where we are currently. How do we move from where we are to the next level, right? And as a leader, it's important for them. I engage in the growth process openly so that they see, Dr. Nelson in flying high with every single thing either. And let's say I am. It's still a continuum. I can still be greater than great tomorrow, right? It's continuing the process of growing. So again, we do have informal systems that we use. Can I tell you right now, everybody is sick of systems. Everybody is sick of Google Classroom. They're sick of screens. They're sick of, all right? And I'm with them. I'm like, you know what? Let's do some old school stuff.
Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
We're sick of it, right? So can I tell you right now, the most important thing that I think that we can be doing as leaders is going in face-to-face as often as we possibly can with the old-fashioned hot pink, because that's my color.
Hot pink Post-it notes. Can I tell you? When we're going in classrooms, I'm talking about old school hot pink Post-it notes with very specific, very actionable feedback, right? We've got to be talking about what we want to see more of, right? So not just, oh, you were great today, but you are very amazing at giving higher order thinking questions and activating appropriate wait time. The more specific that we can be with our teachers with the feedback, the more they'll do the things that we need them to do versus just saying good job. So can I tell you, I know that wasn't the answer you were looking for. Yes, we have school status. Yes, we have feedback in school status. That's a particular instrument and tool for informal. But Dr. Nelson is talking old school today. Come on, old school, with your hot pink. There's power in pink. Come on, it's October. It's power in pink.
It's power in pink. So Post-its, folks, get you some.
I think I actually do have like those large size.
Yes.
Big pink notes. And I usually don't use those when they come in the pack, but hey, I'm going to pull them out.
Yeah.
Heather, talk to us. Talk to us about this.
So, Dr. Nelson, you triggered some thoughts in my head as you were talking that I was jotting down. One of them is in Candy McKay's book, You Don't Have to Be Bad to Get Better. She talks about giving feedback as appreciate, notice, wonder. So I appreciate that I saw this. I noticed this. I wonder about this thing that I noticed. And so there's always that opportunity, no matter, because I'm sure all of you have great teachers in your buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really hard sometimes to give really great teachers really great feedback. But we all thrive when we're getting that. The other thing that I heard you say, Dr. Nelson, is understanding the difference between short and long term and knowing that progress towards a goal and attainment of the goal are two different things, but both are worthy of consideration.
Absolutely.
And then I also want to talk about getting clear about the difference between a goal and an action. So the goal is the target that you're aiming for, and the action is actions are the steps that you take in order to achieve that goal. And so if the goal is to lose 50 pounds, you're never going to lose 50 pounds if you don't take action towards it. Stepping on the scale won't do it. And so you need to take actions towards that goal. And so when I'm working with teachers, I want to talk to them about, let's understand what the goals are. And then what are the actions that you're taking? Because when we talk, I want to talk about the actions. The goals will figure themselves out if we get really good at the actions.
I love it.
Excellent. Y'all are so smart. And I'm going to give each of you my cell number because we need to text and we need to continue this conversation here and in our Facebook group. I think one of the things that when I talk about informal or think about informal systems, I want to go back to this idea of building culture and building community. I have a rather large school for my district, one of the largest schools at over 750 kids, a staff of about 70. I think the first thing that we need to point out is that everyone in your building needs feedback, not just the classroom teachers, but your interventionist, the cafeteria worker, come on, the custodians, everyone in your building. Their job, you have to point them and paint a picture with a very broad brush to let them know that what you do on a daily basis impacts student outcomes. And so they need feedback on what they're doing. But one person cannot be responsible, or if you're like me and you have two administrators, we cannot shoulder the weight of that responsibility. I believe it is very important to build a culture of feedback. We have kids giving each other feedback and doing conferences all the time. One of the things that we've done on our campus is we had sticky note goals where the teacher put their goal and what they're working on their door. Anybody that comes into that room, it was an invitation. Please, when you come into my room, look for this and give me feedback on how I am doing. That's the key. 20 years in the principalship, there was a time when I thought that I alone was the person that had to tell everyone and give everyone feedback. But let's be honest, I have found that there is power in not being the brightest candle on the birthday cake. Mm-hmm. There are people in my building that have more content knowledge, that have, and I'm free enough to say that know, that are closer to the work, interventionists, specialists. We have to create an environment where peer-to-peer, specialist to peer, where everyone in your building is giving feedback on, here is our goal. This is your role in that goal. And we're giving each other feedback. It's not just principal to teacher, but it's principal to assistant principal to teacher, teacher to specialist. Everyone is giving everyone feedback. We need to create a culture.
Mac, I love that second part that you said, because not only is it just, comforting to say, recognizing that mm-hmm. we don't have to be the only one, but think about mm-hmm. the pressure that comes off of us when you step into that understanding, right? Like, no, I don't have to be the only one. I don't have to be the expert. And the amount of relief that provides us. So I'm glad you said that, because as we're talking about self-care and making sure that we're okay, that's a simple thing to say, stop putting more on ourselves than we need to do. And this is one of the ways that we could do that. So,
right, because the process of giving feedback alone is a full-time job.
Absolutely.
You would be the feedback specialist.
Yeah.
Feedback queen and king.
Come on.
I agree. I love what you said. And another piece to this, and I know this isn't necessarily a topic for today, but it is a topic for today, was peer evaluations, peer observations. We don't call them evaluations. We're calling feedback sessions, right? So it's been very important and powerful to pretty much the same thing you said. We call it hashtag observe me. Right? Mm-hmm. We're the same concept where everybody says, this is what I'm working on. Feel free to come in. It has been amazing how impactful it is for colleague to colleague to have those conversations about what they see. Perspective is everything, right? I have a view. I see things from my lens, but the more we become transparent with what we're working on, we can get the feedback with a 360 view, right? If you get a 360 view of things, you are empowered at that point to take off, right? Feedback is a gift. It is a gift that can keep on giving if we choose to view it that way. So the more we trust each other, that I trust you have my back, right? I trust in this culture that we truly are doing this for the purpose of growing. Walls come down, and when walls come down in a school, amazing things happen.
That's excellent. Another thing that we've done, and I know that we need to move on, but I'll insert this here. We have also done recently, we did learning walks where groups of teachers, their team and their collaborative planning time went and looked at evidence of writing and went K5 to look for evidence of, and then use what they saw to build criteria as to what are our next steps at our grade level.
There's such power in that, because teachers don't have a chance to see what other people are doing or what they're doing themselves. And so they think that everybody's doing what they're doing at the highest level. And so when people hear feedback in or evaluation in the capital E, from on high type of thing, and then they're hearing somebody say, oh my gosh, I got a low score or whatever. And they're thinking, well, if they got a low score and I really like that person, they're nice to me in the cafeteria or in the hallway or whatever, then they must be a good teacher and I have something to worry about. But when people get to go into each other's spaces, they get to see both things that other people can do in ways that they never dreamt of before. But also it is like holding a mirror up to yourself too, to say, oh, I'm doing a good job with that. And it's not just somebody telling me that.
Yeah. And the other piece, and Charles, I know we have to move on, allowing them to create the rubrics and the criteria that they're judged by. So it's not just me, it is we recognize for our kids to be where we want them to go. These are the things that need to be in place. So it's not us just complying with, here's a list of things that you have to do, but it is, we are vested in the process and we have identified, we will make this collective commitment to ensure all of these things are in place to ensure that our kids are learning at high levels. There's great power when they build that criteria themselves.
So this is the downside of being the last on our like list of orders. It's like, oh yeah, I was going to say that. Oh, well, there goes that. But that is okay. That means I just get to say ditto, 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 and then we keep things moving. But we've talked about a lot here, and you're absolutely right. It's getting away from this idea of evaluations and just saying it's feedback. How do I help you grow? And how do we do that as a community? We consistently talk about the communities that we build within our schools. So how do we empower everyone? How do we amplify the voices of everyone within our building and say, because right at the end of the day, we all rise together, right? And so it can't be a single person. Like, how are we all going to get there? Because we're all responsible for our students to learn, which is exactly what we talk about in our book, our new book that is it's a little over a month old, going on 2 months now. So this is a shameless plug, by the way. If you're watching, you're like, you guys keep talking about the book. Yeah, we wrote the book, so we're going to talk about it. But for me, it connects to a couple of different places. Week 18 talks about, is your school better because of you? Like and I think a lot of what we're talking about today is exactly that, because we are the ones who create the systems that are going to be followed, right? Like we just said earlier, I could be that principal who says, look, I'm doing evaluations. I'm coming in with my little rubric. I'm scoring you. Here's your little feedback form. I'll see you next year, right? We could easily do that. But what we're talking about here is that we have to be cognizant and proactive about the steps that we're taking, just like Dr. Lyon had mentioned. Right. It's you can have a goal, but it's the actions on how we get to that goal. And we as educators must put those things into place. And that makes our schools better, because we can choose not to do those things. And then we could fuss about the conditions of our schools, but we have to recognize the role we play in that space.
Yeah, this is week 18 is a great chapter. And this is a great book. It is. Go to Amazon.com, make a $19.99 investment in yourself and in your leadership. At the end of each chapter, we ask you to reflect. Again, this is to prompt your growth and reflection, and you'll get a message. You will have questions, reflective questions on instructional leadership, servant leadership, what you're learning, opportunity that I don't think that we do as great of a job as an education, and that's telling our own story. But there's questions to prompt you, to get you to think, how can you share this great work that's going on in your building with others across the district and in the community that you serve? And then celebrations. A lot of us, we're achievers, so we achieve something, we check it off the list and we're on to the next thing. But are you really reflecting, and are you celebrating? I think that one of the things that Dr. Lyons kind of alluded to is when we celebrate a particular behavior, those are the things that are duplicated in our building. Celebration, if you celebrate teacher A for doing XYZ, everyone on that wing, they're going to make sure that they're seen doing XYZ because she got some shine for doing XYZ. So how are we celebrating? How are we reflecting? I encourage you, not because I'm one of the authors, see my picture, but I encourage you, if you are a leader, go to Amazon.com right now and pick up this book, Inside the Principal's Office. I think we're giving some of these away, aren't we?
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you're like, I don't know, or I want to make sure that somebody gets a book on my behalf, I mean, you buy it for yourself, but make sure somebody else gets one. It is Principal Appreciation Month, and so we want to show our appreciation for all of the amazing principals out there. So here's what we're asking that you do. Simply go ahead and follow School Rubric. Make sure that you follow us as well inside the principal's office across the different platforms. But what we want you to do is we want you to like and retweet the post that we put out about our book giveaway, because here's what we're going to do. At the end of the month, we are going to choose 5 of the principals that you nominated and send them a free copy of our book. It's a great gift to give a leader within your building. So please make sure that you follow us, that you retweet the post, that you comment and tag the school principal that you are nominating. And like I said, at the end of this month, we will choose 5 and ship them out to those principals, just as a way to say thank you for being amazing leaders. And again, just trying to support our cohort of educational leaders from around the globe. So thank you so very much. And it is time for question number 2.
Can I say this? Can I say this? I know it's October and it's not Halloween yet, but can I be like the retail stores? Christmas is coming. Perfect stocking stuffer. Just perfect. Just fit right in there. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's fine, because now it's time for question numero 2.
Hello, my name is Carlos Baggage, the proud principal of Barber County Intermediate School in Louisville, Alabama. My question is, how do you use the state measurement tool to improve teaching and learning? Thank you.
This is a great question, because I know we were just talking about the systems that we have created, but the reality is so many of us have a state or a district or whatever it may be tool that says this is what we use for your teachers, whether you like it or not. This is what we utilize. So how do we find that balance between everything we just said, but still utilizing the tools so that way, we don't lose our jobs? So I know Dr. Nelson, you started last time. So Dr. Lyon, I'm going to pop over to you.
So I'm going to say that I am not a fan of compliance. I'm not saying that I am non-compliant. I'll do what I got to do, but I don't like doing things just for the sake of doing it. And honestly, that's why I wrote my book, Engagement is Not a Unicorn, It's a Narwhal, which you can buy on Amazon while you're picking up inside the principal's office. And so helping people understand, again, what we're looking for. So if we're talking about that this tool is supposed to lead to better outcomes for kids and engagement for kids, I want to know, what do we mean by engagement? And now that we're in the midst of COVID, our teachers are burning out, our administrators are burning out. And I think some basic things like doing what you got to do, but doing it in a way that gets people back to the purpose that you're doing it and the humanity of the people doing it. So starting with how are you doing and what can I do to help you be successful? If you need help, if you need me to just be understanding of the fact that maybe you're going to be running late a couple days or something like that, I need you to be able to communicate that with me, because relationship matters. And so it doesn't matter how much we stick with whatever that tool is. If we don't have relationship, you don't trust me to evaluate you anyway. So it's building relationship within the things that we have to do.
I love that. Point. Help me help you. I want to help you. Help me help you.
Not in that desperation type of way, but you're a human and I'm a human.
Right.
And so I want to honor that humanity in both of us.
That's great. That is wonderful. Dr. Nelson, how about you?
I agree. It's all about relationships. And in that same vein, if you will, words matter, right? Words have power. So, I'm a believer that when you're talking evaluations, you're talking feedback, that language can elevate or language can alienate, right? People can feel like they're in the thing by themselves, but that's definitely not the case if we're using the right terminology. Our state has adjusted its evaluation instrument. Like I said earlier, that we now have the Mississippi Professional Growth Rubric. So we're talking about growing. We're not talking about, oh, you're great or you're not great. We are truly talking about growing educators. So for me, in a building, as a building level leader, it's important that we are intentional in making sure that everybody understands the instrument itself. And then, for example, this week we're engaging in professional learning about student engagement. So the topic is student engagement, but let's look at how does this directly tie and correlate into our state assessment so that, or the state evaluation, so the evaluation isn't one more thing to do. It is the thing that we are doing, and all of these things are related because teachers are, you are correct, Heather, they are burnt out, they're tired, they're overwhelmed, right? So we don't need to add something else on the plate. The way that we present our evaluation either can help relieve some stress, help them see that, no, it's not one more thing. You're already doing it. You're already doing it. We're just looking at how do we get better with that. So again, for me, evaluation, the big thing is making sure that the language helps to empower and instead of leaving people feeling like they aren't capable of meeting the expectations. So that's it, making it all one big picture and not 20 separate tasks to do.
I love that. And Dr. Lyon, I have to go back to what you said. I'm a rebel, right? I sometimes I'm curious on how I still have a job because I'm like, I'm doing what's best for my people, my students, my building, like, and I'm going to figure it out. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm going to do what's best. And when the time comes, if I'm the one who has to stand there and say, no, this is what we're doing, then it's like, it is what it is, but there's something working because I'm still here. So you're absolutely right. We have a rubric. And what I think what bothers me the most about all of this is it boils down to a number. And we cannot, like, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about growth. We're talking about, becoming better practitioners of what it is that we're trying to do. And you can't capture that with a number. And it really infuriates me that we start off with these grand ideals, but in order to create a system so that way we can say, okay, you're going to get this bonus or you're going to get that bonus or you're going to be retained or whatever it may be, we boil everything down to simple numbers that fit nicely into a chart or a graph. And the reality is, and I'm just going to say, we do that out of convenience for us. That's all it is. Just like we do it for students, educators, right? So as we start to break away from that, I know in-house, I've said, look, this is what they're saying that we have to do. Here's our template. Here's our rubric. So how are you getting better at that? That's what I want you to show me. We're going to create portfolios. We're going to have conversations. Where are we growing in these areas? And that's all I care about. I'm not making sure, are you excellent in every single area? Because as we said earlier, you're not going to be. It's unrealistic to create that. It's unrealistic to expect that you're going to be excellent at every single thing. But for us, excellent simply means continuous growth and improvement. That's all I want to see. Are you better today than you were yesterday? Are you better this month than you were last month? That is all I care about. So we don't do the 2 observations, here and there. We are constantly inside the classrooms, constantly watching what's happening, constantly providing feedback, constantly providing opportunities for teachers to say, this is where I want to grow. How do you want to do that? Do you want to go to a workshop? Do you need to go to a conference? Do you need me to bring somebody? How do you want to grow? And that's what we're looking at the end of the year. Did you reach your goal? And if not, I'm not going to punish you, but it's what can we do differently next year to make sure that you meet your goal next year? Right? That is what we should be caring about. And you can't capture that in any number. And so that's how I approach it. And like I said, at the end of the year, I give my district their numbers that they want. But the reality is that's not what I do to my teachers, because if I gave teachers numbers, just like our students, that is all they care about. They're on a hunt for a number, for a grade. And that is not what we're doing. So I'm sorry, I went on a rant. I didn't get to go for question 1. So I went off on question number 2.
You did go off. Capital OFF. I want to say, Dr. Lyon, I just purchased your book. And if y'all are out there, go get this book. Go get this book. Wow. Y'all are so smart. And I am learning so much from you. Charles, kiss your brain, because that was great. That was great. I think there's not a lot of meat left on this bone, but I'll try. the state instrument must be a part of a comprehensive system of growth and learning. Teachers at our building, I say all the time that when they enter the building, I tell them that you're entering this building as a teacher and you're entering the building as a learner. And we cannot allow the state instrument to be that autopsy at the end of the year that is the complete summary of who you are. We are teachers of teachers. And just as we say that end of the year exam that the state gives kids, we say that that's just a number and it does not define kids. We have to create that culture and understanding with our teachers that this is a part of your portfolio. It is a part of what we do, but it is only a part of a larger, comprehensive plan to grow you that should be formative in nature. You should not just be waiting to that end of the year or whenever you select to do that, because if you get them done early, if that's the end all and be all, I have people that will be observed in the next few weeks. So it's October, November. Are we giving up for the rest of the year? Right. Heck no. You're still going to get feedback. So I think that is the biggest thing is we use that, but we only use it as a part, and we realize that it does not define them. When our state measure is the T-test, which really encourages principals to do a coaching model. It really is a coaching model. So we have to, again, ingrain that into our culture. Let's move on. This has been a great conversation. I can't believe that it's almost over, but let's move on to one of my favorite parts of our show, and that's the ideas that stick. As Dr. Lyon has said, we don't want to just talk about goals, but what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? We have people online. John, what are we going to do? Stacy, Beverly, what are we going to do as a result of our time here together? Our ideal that sticks. What tweak will you make to increase the amount of feedback you give to teachers on a regular basis? My ideal that stick is this. I talked about it at the front of the show, and I've tried to weave it through everything that I've said today. And that is, we have got to build a culture in our buildings, build a culture of feedback where teachers know that the principal or the administrative team is not the only person that can give you feedback that you can use. Anybody in the building can give you, say this with me, news you can use. Anybody, an instructional coach can give you news that can be used. And what if you ask your students? Students can give you for sure, and they tell you the plain truth. They tell you like it is. Yes. News you can use. Come on, Dr. Nelson. What do you think that you would suggest others? What can we do?
I think developing and cultivating that growth mindset is very important, because the more people start seeing that it's about growing and glowing, the more they want the feedback, right? Mm-hmm. So we're getting to a point where teachers say, can you please come in to see? Because I want to continue to grow. So I think helping everyone to understand that it's a spectrum, right? And you can always get better on a spectrum. So that growth mindset is very important.
That's excellent. And I love that. We could create a culture where teachers are asking, please come, help me. Heather?
I think we got to get clear about what it is we're talking about. So when we're talking about goals, we need to be talking about actions too. When we're talking about feedback, we need to be talking about engagement. And I love what Charles said about if somebody doesn't achieve the goal, it's not an opportunity to lament and lambaste them. It's an opportunity to say, okay, what's going on and what could we do next time? Because when people start to make goals that they can achieve and only make achievable goals, they're going to set the bar low, and we need a high bar.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, we do quarterly. We try to set them quarterly, and they're like, what happens if I don't reach it? Like, well, then it's the next quarter's goal too. There's no rule. Like, we just keep growing and growing and growing. So mine is what we talked about a little bit earlier. It's utilizing a team. And this is something that I really had to figure out as a leader. I used to be the guy, I had to do everything by myself because that's what a leader did, right? No, that's not what good leaders do. We utilize the teams around us. And so now we have a team, my leadership team, We're in classrooms all the time providing feedback. We encourage teachers to pop into each other's and provide that feedback. But again, it's relieving stress from yourself as a leader, but it's really providing a more comprehensive look as an educator to say, I'm getting these different viewpoints, these different perspectives in my classroom, so I can really learn and grow. And it's not just coming from a single person. So definitely create a team. Plus, teachers are going to get feedback a lot more often than just whenever you're available between meetings and fire drills and all the other crazy stuff that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, I love this portion. So I wish, Dr. Nelson, we would have been able to get yours on your pink Post-it note there, but that's okay.
Yes.
So we will be back in 2 weeks. I know you're like, wait a minute, we get you 3 times in October? Yeah, 3 times. And that's really because we know the holidays are coming up. So you're only going to get to be with us once in November, once in December. I am so sorry. It's okay, because we'll be back full swing come the new year. But you'll be with us 3 times in October. So we will be connecting again on October 30th. So if it's not on your calendar, please put that in. And we're going to have a very serious conversation. And of course, nothing that any of us have ever dealt with, but dealing and engaging with challenging parents. That's never happened to any of you guys, right?
No.
No, they're all.
I am the challenging parent.
There you go. There you go. All right.
You might fall in that category too.
So it's an amazing topic. I think we are going to have a wonderful conversation around it. And again, as always, we want to hear from our guests, the people in this space. I saw, Debbie popping in. Thank you for being here. So in that spirit of making sure that we are passing it forward and hearing from our guests, we're going to do something a little bit differently. So we're going to actually ask our guests who are here with us today what questions they would love to hear from our next session. So we're going to turn it over. So we're going to go to Dr. Nelson, and then we're going to go to Dr. Lyon. What is one question that you would love to hear us discuss during our next session?
I think that I would love to hear what are some specific strategies that any principal at any school can use to engage a non-engaged parent.
That is a great question.
Good question.
Engaging those non-engaging parents. We don't have those either. All of our parents are actively engaged all the time. And Plato parents, I love you. Just know that. You know that. So, all right, Dr. Lyon, we are going to come over to you. What is a question that you would love to hear us discuss on our next session?
I should have thought of a backup because my question's so similar, because I think this is so universal. I was wondering, how do you help challenging parents become partnership parents?
I like that. Like, you're upset, you're frustrated, and rightly so, because that is your child. They are in our schools. But how can you play a partnership, right? How do you play a role instead of just being upset? We want you to help us get better. And I know that's something I tell my parents all the time. Thank you for coming in. I'm glad you're in my office upset and angry and ranting and raving, because that tells me that something's wrong. But how do we fix it together, right? I want to make sure that you're playing a role in that. Those are some great questions. We should do this more often.
Because I want to answer right now. I can't wait till the 30th. Y'all are going to have to watch on the 30th. I have some ideas, but Wallace will get me if I start sharing now.
Yeah, he's like, look, guys, we're already over time. I know, even though we don't see him, he's in the background. And this is the part where we start messing with him. And I'm sure we'll see a note in the chat here. So we are going to wrap up here, and we're going to say thank you for everybody. Thank you for being here. We always appreciate connecting with you. I know I'm looking forward to doing it again in another 2 weeks. So Dr. Nelson, thank you for coming back. Thank you for sharing the space, boss lady. I appreciate you. And Dr. Lyon, I'm so happy that we've connected. I know we've shared spaces on Twitter, and now we get to be in the space and we get to learn a little more about you. So thank you for being here.
We look forward to the time where we can have both of you back. We want you again. Go get this book if you're watching. I know I sound like a broken record, and also get the book written by Dr. Lyon. You owe yourself, because as you're growing teachers, you have to grow yourself. A leader cannot take anyone beyond their own exposure. So we must learn as well. Charles, it is always such a pleasure to be here and share this space with you. I know that you have to travel after you get off here, so you be safe. You change your sweater or whatever it is that you do. as you drive through your neighborhood to get to your next venue and location.
Well,
how's
Mac,
the weather? How's the weather there in Chicago? Is it a beautiful day in your neighborhood?
It is. It's sweater weather. And, Mac, I will be happy to host you as my neighbor later on this week. I'm looking forward to you coming to Chicago.
I'll be in Chicago. I will.
All right.
I don't have a fancy little sweater like that, though.
That's okay. I've got plenty. It gets cold here in Chicago. So I want to say again, thank you to everybody. We will see you on October 30th. Remember, like, subscribe, follow, and make sure you engage with that tweet so that way your favorite principal may get a free copy of the book. We will see you on October 30th. Take care and have a happy Principal Appreciation Month.
Follow
care,
all these names on Twitter. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at schoolrubric.com for even more great content, such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.